Hello friends, I welcome all of you to my lecture sessions on biochemistry for pharmacy students. In this lecture session we will discuss in detail about metabolism of individual amino acids and their biological significance. So one very important section of amino acids and their metabolism is what we are going to discuss today. They are aromatic amino acids and biosynthesis of catecholamines. Okay. In our pharmacy subject, we bother more and more about tissue and their function. In central nervous system and peripheral nervous system also, you will find critical role of catecholamines in controlling neuronal activity. So in this session, it's not only just biochemistry, but introduction to medicinal chemistry and pharmacology topics also you can learn in this lecture session. So let's go ahead and then see what exactly is there in this subject, what exactly is there in this topic. In aromatic amino acids, we have three amino acids are there. One is phenylalanine, tyrosine and tryptophan. So in phenylalanine and tyrosine, both are related to each other. Only a simple para-hydroxy group is there. That's the only difference. Whereas the tryptophan contains indole ring in it. Okay. But here it is only benzene ring containing compound. Along with this, we have one more molecule is one more amino acid is there, that is histidine. Okay, regarding histidine, we covered this one separately in another lecture, where arginine, aspartic acid, aspargine, glutamine, etc. all these amino acids, because it shares a lot of similarity with those amino acids, so we have discussed about this one separately. Okay, so if you are interested in histidine, you may please visit that video. Okay, now all these amino acids are intrinsically essential amino acids, okay, literally. But you can see here phenylalanine can be converted to tyrosine in your body, but intrinsically all these amino acids are considered as essential amino acids. All these are glucogenic as well as ketogenic. Okay, phenylalanine and tyrosine gives fumarate and acetoacetate. So here the fumarate part will go into gluconeogenesis. Acetoacetate is considered as a ketone body. In case of tryptophan, it gives alanine and acetoacetyl CoA. So this alanine will go into alanine glucose cycle, and acetoacetyl CoA is the ketone body. Okay, so this is in brief the outline of metabolic outcomes of these aromatic amino acids. Now let's see phenylalanine and tyrosine. The first and foremost reaction which is important in this particular reaction in this particular compounds is conversion of phenylalanine to tyrosine. So here we have a separate set of enzymes, we call them as phenylalanine hydroxylase. So this is the enzyme which makes use of tetrahydrobiopterin for conversion of phenylalanine to tyrosine. So how actually this chemical reaction is happening? So this is a phenylalanine, this is tetrahydrobiopterin. Okay, it looks like our tetrahydrofuran, tetrahydrofolate, where this is the teroyl unit. Here para-aminobenzoic acid unit will be there, but whereas in case of biopterin, you have here simple carbon chain. Okay, CHOH, CHOH and CH3. So this ring, this part, even in case of tetrahydrofolate also, this is the ring which gets hydrogenated. So here tetrahydrobiopterin is utilized. It helps in using oxygen, and it breaks down oxygen, and one of the oxygen is incorporated into the aromatic ring, and the second oxygen is reduced to water. Okay, so this is what is going to happen over here. This dihydrobiopterin gets recharged again by with the help of oxidation reaction over here. So thereby tetrahydrobiopterin is regenerated. So here this hydrogen and this hydrogen both are incorporated into dihydrobiopterin. So this double bond is going to be reduced. So ultimately you will get the 5, 6, 7, 8 tetrahydrobiopterin is regenerated, and in this process phenylalanine is converted to tyrosine. The enzyme we have here is phenylalanine hydroxylase enzyme. Similarly, tyrosine is hydroxylated to DOPA by tyrosine 3 hydroxylase and tryptophan to 5-hydroxytryptophan by tryptophan 5 hydroxylase. So these reactions are routine reactions which takes the help of tetrahydrobiopterin for this hydroxylation, aromatic hydroxylation reactions. Okay. So if you see the entire metabolic reaction of phenylalanine, the first step is phenylalanine gets converted to tyrosine. Then tyrosine undergoes transamination reaction where nitrogen is eliminated by using, say, the regular alpha ketoglutarate glutamine cycle. Okay, so alpha ketoglutarate abstracts amino group from over here to become glutamine, and tyrosine will become 4-hydroxy phenyl pyruvate, means this is an alpha keto carboxylic acid. Now this transfer reaction happens where oxidative degradation with the help of dioxygenase enzyme. First one is the carboxylic acid over here gets degraded, and at the same time this carbon, this group is going to be shifted to the next position. This particular unique oxidative degradation reaction results in formation of homogeneous state. So this is what we call it as homogeneous state. Carbon dioxide is lost and this unit is shifting over there. One of the oxygen is over here as hydroxy group, the other oxygen is incorporated into carboxylic acid. This is homogeneous state, 2,5-dihydroxyphenyl acetate. This one again gets oxidative degradation will happen by breaking open this bond over here. By breaking open this bond over here, here oxidative degradation, it looks more like ozonolysis type of reaction where double bond O and double bond O is coming, and 1,2-dioxygenase is the enzyme which does this job. So here malenyl acetoacetate is coming. See here up to this one. This is acetoacetic acid and this is maleic acid. Okay, so malenyl acetoacetate is formed. This one it is a cis form. Okay, so this is maleic acid. So trans form is fumaric acid. So this will go into trans form. So fumaryl acetoacetate is coming. Then it gets dissociated. Okay, so that you will get fumarate and acetoacetate. Fumarate and acetoacetate. So friends, so this is the way how phenylalanine gets degraded in a programmed manner. So in the middle, even the benzene ring also gets degraded. So ultimately you are going to get fumarate and acetoacetate. Fumarate will go into gluconeogenesis. Acetoacetate is a contributor towards ketone body formation. Biosynthesis of catecholamines, how actually this is happening, let's see. Because in the last slide, whatever we have seen is complete degradation with an aim to obtain energy producing compounds. Now tyrosine, okay, so tyrosine gets hydroxylated to DOPA. Okay, it is what we call it as tyrosine hydroxylase or DOPA synthase. So this DOPA, even in the introductory lecture, we have seen in amino acid metabolism, either R group gets altered. R group means substitution, all this substitution can get altered, or decarboxylation can happen, or deamination can happen, unless nitrogen is there. Okay, so till the time nitrogen is there, the amino acid shall retain its biological activity. Some kind of biological significance will be there. Let's say from tyrosine to DOPA, what is it that happened over here? One more functional group was added. Okay, so this group, this compound DOPA still retains its capability to participate in biochemical reactions other than energy producing reactions. Okay, but if you remove nitrogen, the entire compound will become eligible only for energy production. It cannot participate in other biochemical reactions which are critical for signal transduction, etc. Now decarboxylation happens, where carboxylic acid unit is eliminated as carbon dioxide. So in this biochemical reaction, we are going to get from DOPA, we are getting dopamine. This is the first neurotransmitter that we can get from tyrosine. So this dopamine gets hydroxylated, the carbon chain gets hydroxylated with the help of oxygen, and L-ascorbate also helps here. This is beta hydroxylation happening. So here hydroxy group is introduced. This compound is nothing but noradrenaline. So to noradrenaline, that NH2 group captures one methyl group from acetinosyl methionine. So methyl transferase enzyme is going to methylate this nitrogen to give us adrenaline or epinephrine. So here by using these biochemical pathways, from phenylalanine we can get tyrosine. From tyrosine, very very important biochemicals like dopamine, noradrenaline and adrenaline are obtained. Okay, dopamine is a very powerful CNS stimulatory neurochemical. Noradrenaline and adrenaline controls our autonomic nervous system and central nervous system. Okay, so these neurochemicals, these signaling molecules are key in controlling autonomic nervous system and central nervous system. So inactivation of catecholamines occurs by means of oxidative deamination. As I told you, okay, until unless we remove nitrogen, the compounds will keep on showing their biological activity. The biological activity shall retain with the molecule till the nitrogen is there. Okay, that's the reason why inactivation of catecholamines usually occurs by means of oxidative deamination by using monoamino oxidase to acidic metabolites, and to somewhat neutralization happens in case of especially catecholamines, 3O methylation. Okay, we call them as COMT. Catechol O-methyl transferase enzymes are there, which will makes use of again acetinosyl methionine only to convert the hydroxy group to OCH3 group, especially this one, third hydroxy group is converted to methoxy group. Okay, OCH3. So thereby it fails to attach to both alpha and beta adrenergic receptors. Okay, so this is the way how biosynthesis happens, and this is the way how neutralization also happens. Next and very important biochemical pathway here is intermediate formation in melanin biosynthesis. Okay, for melanin is a coloring pigment that is formed in various tissues in your body, including your eye, skin and hair. Okay, so these chemicals are like dyes. Okay, dyes which will give coloration to any tissue. Okay, so they are formed from first tyrosine is converted to DOPA. The sequence of chemical reactions that happen in melanin formation are really simple and straightforward. So here what exactly is happening is tyrosine first gets converted to DOPA, and DOPA will be converted to dopaquinone with the help of a copper containing enzyme tyrosinase. So this enzyme usually present more in color producing tissues. Okay, color pigment forming cells, and the products of oxidation, okay, dopaquinone will further undergo different oxidative reactions. So ultimately it will give us coloring pigments which will spontaneously undergo polymerization, resulting in insoluble dark pigments. These chemicals are relatively reactive, and they will form insoluble dark pigments. Okay, so let's see their chemistry. First, tyrosine gets converted to dopa. So far is fine. And then here dopa is a quinone. Okay, is a quinol, dihydroquinol. But here it gets oxidized to dopa-quinone. The dopa-quinone will then undergo cyclization reaction to get as dopachrome. These are all very highly colored chemical substances, because we have extended conjugation from nitrogen to oxygen, and then this will further gets degraded because the decarbonylation happens to give us highly nonpolar and highly colored one indole 5,6-quinone. Indole 5,6-quinone. So this further reacts with itself as well as with the nearby proteinous material, especially to form highly colored pigments. Okay, black or black means the chemicals that are formed are eumelanins. Ochre or brownish color tinge will come with the help of pheomelanins. Okay, so these two types of pigments are formed by reacting with themselves and forming insoluble dark pigments. Okay, so friends, this is the way how melanin formation will be there. So melanin formation is a very important biochemical response system. To some extent it is controlled by genes, so this is what decides your skin tone. But when you are exposed more and more to sunlight especially, so that induces, because UV rays induce formation of more and more of these melanin pigments by flipping dopa to become dopa-quinone. Okay, so this flipping is very much essential, and one of the stimulatory parameter over here is environmental parameter over here is exposure to sunlight. Okay, so that's why when you go to open sun, your skin get tanned. Okay, tanning of skin happens because of enhanced production of melanin pigments. In some of the people, this melanin formation will not be there. Okay, so in that case, albino or they are completely white in color, albinism will come in those people where this mechanism if fails. Okay, we will see them in the coming slides. I hope you understood the concept of melanin formation. So one of the very important contribution from tyrosine metabolism is biosynthesis of thyroid hormone. So you all knew this one. Okay, thyroid hormones T3 and T4 are very important for functioning of our body. Okay, especially heat generation, rate of oxidative metabolism and thermogenesis are under control of thyroid hormones. So here within the thyroid cell, at the cell colloid interface, iodide anions are oxidized by thyroperoxidase and incorporated into tyrosyl residues of thyroglobulin. So how it is happening? Let's see. Tyrosyl residues are incorporated with iodine. Okay, peroxidase enzyme, peroxide enzyme. Okay, H2O2 will also be utilized for achieving this particular objective. And then one more such unit, okay, helps in shifting the aromatic unit. Okay, so to this unit, one of this unit will be contributed, and the remaining, so whatever remaining unit that is there, this is nothing but alanyl. Okay, alanyl unit. The aromatic ring unit will be cleaved and then shifted onto the hydroxy group over here. So thereby you are going to get iodinated thyronil residue is going to be generated. Okay, thyronil residue is going to be generated, and upon proteolysis means hydrolysis of this particular protein unit, you are going to get thyroxine or T4 unit, 3,5,3'5' tetraiodothyronine is going to be generated. Okay, so this is the way how thyroid hormones are generated from tyrosyl units present in thyroglobulin present in the thyroid cells. Okay, so here the enzyme critical observations here we need to make are thyroperoxidase enzyme, which takes the help of hydrogen peroxide and iodine. Okay, so these are oxidized and incorporated into incorporated onto benzene ring, the tyrosine unit. And two such tyrosine units are utilized. Okay, one of the tyrosine unit is cleaved, the benzene ring is shifted onto the other tyrosyl unit like this, leaving back alanyl unit. And after once this happens, this thyronal residue will be cleaved, because thyroid hormone release depends on several factors. So as and when it is needed, the thyroglobulin unit will be cleaved, proteolysis will happen to release thyroxine molecule. Okay, so this is the way how the thyroid hormones are generated. The coupling of iodotyrosyl residues in thyroglobulin is also catalyzed by thyroperoxidase enzyme. This is what we have seen. Proteolysis of thyroglobulin follows in lysosomes and thyroxine is secreted. Okay, so friends, this is the way how tyrosine gives us thyroid hormones. The next amino acid is tryptophan. Tryptophan is a very important amino acid. Okay, so this gives us several biochemicals. One of the critical amino acid, critical outcome of this amino acid metabolism is 5-hydroxytryptamine, 5-HT or serotonin, a very important neurotransmitter. It is an essential and both glucogenic and ketogenic amino acid. After opening the indole ring, because the indole ring is actually opened, and after that it releases alanine, and the carbons for aromatic ring, the carbons of the aromatic ring gives the acetoacetate. We will see them in detail. Tryptophan mostly does not undergo transamination directly. Okay, it will not undergo transamination. Mostly it gets degraded so that nitrogen shall remain with the alanine. Nitrogen shall remain with the alanine. Now let's see. Catabolism of tryptophan is usually initiated by cleavage of pyrrole ring, okay, of the indole by tryptophan dioxygenase or tryptophan pyrrolase. See this one. Tryptophan is first getting degraded over here. Okay, double bond is there, so you will have double bond over here as well as here, like this. Now here we have HCHO. Okay, so this unit will be transferred onto formyl. Okay, as a formyl group, this part will be transferred onto tetrahydrofolate. So tetrahydrofolate will be loaded with formyl unit. So this will help in single carbon metabolism. So I made a separate video on single carbon metabolism. So if you are interested, you please see that video where how actually the formyl group of this one tryptophan metabolism is loaded onto TH4, and then how it is utilized for various metabolic reactions. Okay, then here what is happening upon hydrolytic cleavage, this part will be cleaved as formic acid, that will be loaded onto tetrahydrofolate as a formyl unit, HCO, and means aldehyde group. And then the remaining part is what we call it as kynurin. Okay, this is kynurin. What will happen then? See, here actually cleavage happens so that it releases, this part is nothing but alanine. Okay, so here kynurin is getting oxygenated, means hydroxylation happens. So ortho to nitrogen. Okay, so this part gets hydroxylated to obtain 3-hydroxykynurin. Then cleavage happens over here, which releases alanine. Alanine can be converted to pyruvate, and pyruvate can be converted to energy producing chemical compounds, like either it can go towards Krebs cycle or it can go towards gluconeogenesis. So the remaining compound 3-hydroxyanthranilate will then be degraded over here, okay, to give us 2-amino-muconate 6-semialdehyde. So this is the name of the chemical compound. you just have to break this bond and add double bond O and double bond O, like in case of ozonolysis, okay? And then ultimately you are getting 2-amino muconate 6-semi-aldehyde. So this 2-amino-muconate 6-semi-aldehyde will be converted to 2-oxoadipate. Okay, means hydrogenation and then transamination reaction over here. Okay, the NH2 is eliminated and 2-oxo alpha keto adipate is formed. Alpha keto adipate you can also see in case of lysine, amino acid lysine metabolism, where because this is alpha keto carboxylic acid, this can be converted to corresponding coenzyme A via decarbonylation. Okay, decarbonylation happens and then you will get corresponding glutaryl coenzyme A. So from here, similar kind of a metabolism as we have seen in lysine happens. Glutaryl CoA will be converted to protanoyl CoA. Here carbon dioxide, COH group is eliminated as carbon dioxide, plus here double bond is formed. Okay, oxidative decarbonylation is happening over here. This protanoyl coenzyme A will be added with water, so that here you will have a hydroxy group, and then dehydrogenation will also happen. Ultimately what you are going to get is CH2, C double bond O, CH2, COOH. What is this compound? This is acetoacetic acid or acetoacetate. Okay, this is going to be formed at the end. So friends, this is the way how from tryptophan we get ketone body. Okay, so this is a ketogenic amino acid. This is the way how we are going to get it. Hope you understood the metabolism of tryptophan. Now, utilization of tryptophan, how we are going to make the best use of tryptophan, and there are certain biochemical applications are there in tryptophan metabolism. One of them is nicotinate ring synthesis for NADP. Okay, NAD means nicotinate adenine dinucleoside. Okay, nicotinate adenosine dinucleotide phosphate. Humans can provide nearly all of their nicotinamide requirement from tryptophan. If there is a sufficient amount of tryptophan is in the diet, then only it is possible. Normally about 2/3 come from this source. Okay, so here what is happening? We start from this one. Okay, 3-hydroxyanthranilate. So if you start from 3-hydroxyanthranilate, what is happening after this? It is cleaved. Okay, 2-amino 3-carboxy-muconate 6-semi-aldehyde is going to be formed. So this we know. Then what is happening? So here it is isomerized. So here we have NH2 on this side and COH on this side. That will flip to cis-trans isomerism. Okay, then aldehyde is going to react with this NH2 to give us quinolinate. Then what happens? This carboxylic acid will be eliminated as carbon dioxide to ultimately give us nicotinate mononucleotide. Okay, so here ribosyl 5-phosphate. Okay, phosphoribosyl pyrophosphate reacts with this to ultimately give us ribosyl 5-phosphate. Nicotinyl ribosyl 5-phosphate. This will react with adenosine to give us adenosyl nicotinamide adenosyl dinucleotide will be formed. Okay, friends, I hope you understood how actually tryptophan metabolism starting from 3-hydroxyanthranilate is providing us inputs for biosynthesis of NAD. Okay, so here nicotinate mononucleotide is obtained. This will react with ATP to give us adenosyl nicotinamide adenosyl dinucleotide. Further, tryptophan metabolism, if you see regular metabolism, how actually it is happening, the first step that is going to happen is hydroxylation. Here also biotin mediated hydroxylation happens to give us 5-hydroxytryptophan. So here comes decarbonylation. As I told you, whenever we have nitrogen with the carbon skeleton, it shall contain some kind of biological activity. Okay, so here what is happening? Decarbonylation is happening to give us serotonin or 5-hydroxytryptamine, because we have removed carbon dioxide carboxylic acid unit from here, so it is becoming an amine 5-hydroxytryptamine. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter in CNS and a local hormone of argentophin cells of the intestinal mucosa. It is degraded to 5-hydroxyindole acetic acid, okay, because NH2 group will be removed by MAO, monoamine oxidase enzyme, so thereby this carbon becomes carboxylic acid. Next, in pineal gland, you will have methylation reaction happens, okay, acetylation as well as methylation over here to give us melatonin. So earlier we have heard of one related chemical, that is melanin. Melanin is for pigmentation. This is melatonin. Melatonin is a very important chemical which maintains our sleep cycle. Okay. Secretion of melatonin from pineal gland is increased in darkness. For us, it controls our sleep cycle. Tryptophan in large intestine, it gets decarboxylation happens and tryptamine is going to be formed. This tryptamine will be converted to indole and scatol. Inborn metabolic disorders of phenylalanine catabolism. This is one very important topic in aromatic amino acid metabolism. So naturally, what actually happens is phenylalanine gets converted to tyrosine, tyrosine gets converted to DOPA. Tyrosine will then be converted to 4-hydroxyphenylpyruvate upon transamination reaction, and this will become homogenistate 2,5-dihydroxyphenylacetate, and then malinyl acetoacetate is formed, ultimately fumaryl acetoacetate, and then this is dissociated into fumarate and acetoacetate. So this is the complete picture of phenylalanine and tyrosine metabolism. But here, if phenylalanine hydroxylase, if that is not working, then you will have a particular problem. We call it as hyperphenylalaninemia. Okay, this results in phenylketonuria. Okay, so because phenylalanine fails to get converted to tyrosine, so a large quantity of phenylalanine will be converted to phenylalanine is this one. Okay, benzene will be there, and then you have NH2 and COOH. So if it cannot be converted to tyrosine because hydroxylation cannot happen, so large quantity of this one will be eliminated via transamination. So this kind of this is phenyl alpha keto carboxylic acid that will result from transamination reaction of phenylalanine. So large quantity of this chemical you will see in urine. Okay, and then if tyrosine fails to become DOPA, then albinism results, because as we have just now seen, the biosynthetic pathway for melanin pigment is formation of DOPA. Okay, so if this tyrosine hydroxylase enzyme fails to convert tyrosine to DOPA, it results in albinism, means pigmentation will be altered. Then the 4-hydroxyphenylpyruvate has to be converted to homogenistate via decarbonylation, so that we will have malinyl acetoacetate will be there. Sorry, homogenistate will happen. Okay, 2,5-dihydroxyphenylacetate. So here, if it fails to get converted, this is one type of a problem. We call it as hypertyrosinemia 2. Then, if homogenistate fails to get converted to malinyl acetoacetate, this condition is what we call it as alkaptonuria. And then fumaryl acetoacetate has to be converted to fumarate and acetoacetate. Okay, so if this fails to happen, this problem is what we call it as hypertyrosinemia. Okay, hypertyrosinemia 1. So these are the problems that we are able to see over here. Among these, you will see most of the, if you compare quantitatively the type of problems that you are going to see in case of phenylalanine catabolism, these are genetic disorders, inborn metabolic disorders. So if the genes which are responsible for expression of the corresponding enzymes fails, these are the problems which you are going to see. Here phenylketonuria is a threatening problem, because if you fail to convert phenylalanine to tyrosine, many of the neurochemicals cannot be generated, okay, because we need tyrosine to generate adrenaline and noradrenaline, and we need DOPA to run your central nervous system, okay. Dopamine is a primary, okay, very important neurochemical responsible for CNS activation, including it controls memory centers, responsive centers, and other processing regions, okay. It controls even the hormone release, etc. So that's the reason why whenever hyperphenylalaninemia happen, it results in mental retardation in patients, okay. So further, increased concentration of phenylketones, ketone body generated from phenylalanine metabolism creates threatening problems in patients, okay. So that's the reason why we need to reduce the phenylalanine content in their phenylalanine and tyrosine content in their food material. Means less protein containing food is to be consumed, or else we have to choose proteins with less quantity of phenylalanine and tyrosine. Means synthetically modified protein material is to be provided to the patient. Hyperphenylalaninemia type 1. Let's see in detail. So this is a classical phenylketonuria disease, where phenylalanine gets converted to tyrosine, and here phenylalanine upon transamination gives phenylpyruvate, okay. So phenylpyruvate can be degraded to phenylacetate, and also this one, orthohydroxyphenylacetate. So it is a defect of phenylalanine hydroxylase enzyme. The ability to convert phenylalanine to tyrosine is considerably impaired. So that's why phenylketonuria have to be recognized through the compulsory screening of newborn infants and treated by low phenylalanine diet till the age of 8 to 10 years. Okay, if he could survive up to this one, then he can pick up. Then the consequence of untreated phenylketonuria is mental retardation, or we call it as oligophrenia phenylpyruvica. Besides high levels of blood phenylalanine, alternative catabolites are produced and excreted in high amounts. So that's why specific smell will come to their urine. Okay, so here this one, okay, phenylpyruvate gets degraded to phenylacetate and orthohydroxyphenylacetate. So these metabolite concentrations will increase in urine because phenylalanine fails to get converted to tyrosine. Malignant hyperphenylalaninemia type 4 and 5, where the tetrahydrobiopterin is lacking due to the defective dihydrobiopterin biosynthesis from guanylate, or an ineffective reduction of BH2 to BH4, because after the hydroxylation BH4 will become BH2, okay, that has to be regenerated. If that mechanism fails, even that will also result in excessive concentration of phenylalanine in our system. Hence in that case we can supplement tetrahydrobiopterin so that we can reverse this kind of biochemical pathway problems. We can reverse this kind of biochemical problems. Hypertyrosinemia, because right now phenylalanine became tyrosine. Now tyrosine has to be converted to DOPA, or else other metabolites that are needed. It occurs in several forms. They may be caused by a deficit of enzymes which catalyze either the transmission of transamination of tyrosine or oxidation of parahydroxyphenylpyruvate and hydrolysis of fumarole acetoacetate. Okay, so here what we have to do, a low tyrosine diet may be useful. Plasma levels of tyrosine are elevated obviously, and large amounts of tyrosine and parahydroxyphenylpyruvate, lactate and acetate are excreted in urine. Okay, so this is what we call it as tyrosyluria. So the next problem that we have over here is alkaptonuria, which is so unique. Okay, so here what is going to happen is the homogeneous state which is going to be generated in the metabolism of tyrosine, it has to be converted to mallyl acetoacetate. Okay, so here homogeneous state oxidase is the enzyme which does this job, but if it fails, then so much of homogeneous state will be there in your system, okay, and it will be excreted as such. So it's an inborn deficit of homogeneous state oxidase enzyme results in this kind of a problem. But normally, except for the darkening of the urine on air, okay, if you collect the urine sample and if you keep it open, then it will result in darkening of color because of the formation of benzoquinone acetate, okay, by polyphenol oxidase or by oxygen in the air. If you keep this molecule directly in air, automatically it will be converted to dark color, okay, because of formation of benzoquinone. But here what happens is, till the second or third decade, means the patient up to he reaches 20 years or 30 years, no problem. But after that, because of high concentration of this chemical, it will be deposited in different tissues. Thereby, it slowly it gets converted to this benzoquinone and also polymerize to result in black or brown, okay, dark brown color pigments, especially in the sclera, ear, nasal cartilages are actually darkened because of this one, which are the cause of deforming arthritis. Okay, so this is the way how lack of homogeneous oxidase enzyme results in alkaptonuria. Okay, so friends, we are at the end of amino acid metabolism chapter. So I just wanted to give you a comprehensive summary of the contributions from various amino acids. So to begin with, let's start from the left side corner. Threonine upon degradation gives glycine. Glycine can be converted to serine or cysteine. All these ultimately ends up in providing pyruvic acid. Okay, pyruvic acid can also be obtained from alanine. Alanine can be obtained via metabolic degradation of tryptophan. Okay, so pyruvic acid can be converted to acetyl-CoA, which can be integrated into TCA cycle, and this acetyl-CoA can be generated from leucine, isoleucine and threonine. Okay, so this acetyl-CoA, two such units can be react with each other to give us acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA can be obtained from lysine and tryptophan. Leucine, phenylalanine and tyrosine upon degradation can provide us acetoacetate. So all these amino acids over here are what we call them as ketogenic. And here in the among the remaining amino acids, histidine upon degradation gives us glutamate. Okay, so glutamate, glutamine, proline and arginine upon degradation gives us alpha ketoglutarate, which is a part of citric acid cycle, and that will eventually converted to succinyl-CoA. Succinyl-CoA can be obtained from valine, methionine, isoleucine and threonine. That is what we have seen in the previous lectures. And phenylalanine and tyrosine can also provide us fumarate, and aspartate and aspargine also can provide us fumarate and oxaloacetate. So here oxaloacetate is the key ingredient in the biosynthesis of glucose. So all these amino acids over here are all glucogenic. Okay, glucogenic. Some of the amino acids, okay, you can see here phenylalanine and tyrosine. You can also find over here. And what else are there? Isoleucine and threonine are also providing us succinyl coenzyme here. So like this, these amino acids are we call them as both glucogenic as well as ketogenic. So friends, this is the way how the amino acids that we have upon metabolism are providing us both energy producing chemicals as well as signaling molecules that are essential for the functioning of our body. Friends, I hope you understood the concept of metabolism and its contributions to our health and maintenance of our body. If you have any doubt, you please let me know through comment section so that I'll be able to clarify. And I request you to please share these videos with your friends so that they also can get benefited out of it. Further, I would like to request you to please subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you will get a notification as and when I post a new video in this subject. I thank you for your time and keep watching my channel, and I'll meet you again with another very interesting lecture soon. Thank you.